Welcome. This week we're watching Paperman. So far, the earliest Emma Stone movie we've watched from 2009, but if you look at the movie itself, it does not feel that way in the slightest, based entirely on just my subjective opinion on the vibe of just like I couldn't tell if it was my player or if it just looked a little like grainier. It looked like it was trying to be older, but it just didn't feel like it was made in the same time span of like Easy A. Because I think of the movies we watched, this was 2009, 2010 was Easy A, I think, and then 2011 was Crazy Stupid Love. And how these three films look is just vastly different compared to like 2009, 2010. Which may just be that this Paperman was made earlier. I don't really know. I am not privy enough to film knowledge to know the difference between that. But this movie it's just very boring, and then it gets very dicey. And it's also kind of just a worse La La Land in like every way. The main way being that it is doing a similar concept, because there's the idea it's like these two people meet, they become friends, and they make each other better. In this case, they get rid of their two imaginary friends who are like basically their trauma, but also like not entirely their trauma. And the point is they meet each other, they become friends, and then they like fix each other, or not fix each other, but like they get better by the end of it. But Emma Stone in this is like, her character is like 16, maybe 17 tops. And Richard, the main guy, is like 50, 60, maybe older. He's like 50-ish, because Ryan Reynolds, his Captain Excellent, I think it is, his imaginary friend guy, who is just like his safety device / like imaginary friend in pretty literal sense, is just like there to help him. Is like, yeah, I've been with him like 40 years, since like second grade. So that's like, he's probably in his 50s. So that in and of itself is just a very like immediately just, I don't like this. I am very uncomfortable. This is very weird and also very illegal, which is a common theme for like a lot of this movie. Because Richard is like, dude, what if I like let the high school kids have a party at my house for no other reason, like it's just he can. And I'm like, one, that's serving alcohol to numerous minors, two of which are like, we don't know if they had any alcohol, but like they probably did, who are like 15. And it's like, my man, you're going to jail. That's a crime, and you committed a lot of them. But in general, my prevailing thought for this movie is that Richard just needs to see really every character in this needs to see a therapist, just very badly. Because Richard's like, I need to do something with my hands. Like, my hands don't work like I want to do. You're not doing anything. It's like, yes, and going to see a therapist will help with that. But he's like, no, we're going to live with Ryan Reynolds playing a superhero character that's been there for like 40 years. It's like, your wife is a doctor? He also never refers to his wife. Or actually, she doesn't, not never. But I feel like more times than not, and he also just does it, which is also kind of weird, is he refers to his wife as the doctor, because she's a doctor. Which is just weird. Because it's not in like a playful way, like, oh, she's the doctor, like you're like gloating it or like rubbing it in people's faces. It's just like a casual way that he refers to her. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, what is the purpose of calling your wife the doctor, like not your wife? Which may just be, I don't know how relationships like that work, but I'm also like, that seems a little sus and a little strange. But his wife is also the counselor who had an affair with the student and gave him chlamydia in Easy A, which was just funny. Like, there's really nothing there. It was just kind of funny that they're both in there. She doesn't have an affair in this one, which I honestly was kind of expecting them to go down that route, but then, like, she didn't. She just is like, I gotta go help the doctor for a week, go be a doctor for a week, and then, like, dips out and comes back. Which to me is like, why did you move out there in the first place? Which I get it was like to help him write a story, but it was like, I feel like he's not in the position where you should be moving for him. Because it's like, she's making all the money, and now she just is, and she's just leaving for a week. Like, it's essentially just like a house for him. Which to me is just a little strange, but I don't know. I'm not gonna question it. It's just, a lot of this movie, like, doesn't make sense, but a lot of it was just like, I didn't really care. I was just like, this doesn't make any sense, but I'm also just like, 90% of these problems and the things I'm confused about would be solved if this man just went to a therapist to, like, help him with his problems and just, like, do anything to just become a little better and a little more, like, functioning in society. In my notes, I said the classic, the men will do anything but get a therapist, and this guy has a 40-year-old imaginary friend that is played by Ryan Reynolds, which is, he's not quite playing the, like, one kind of character type that I feel like he plays now, but he's, like, pretty close to, like, walking that line. Like, there is some, like, more dramatic bits in here, but he also is kind of just, like, being the fun guy, like, the fun referential guy who's just, like, he's playing what we all think of Ryan Reynolds for a lot of it. I feel like I don't need to describe that, but I also maybe need to, I don't know. I feel like his body of work speaks for itself, like Deadpool kind of stuff, but a lot less raunchy than Deadpool. In terms of Emma Stone, she looks a lot younger in this than she does in Easy A, which is like a year later. But it may also just be like her character's look, where she just looks very, like, not edgy, but more just like rugged, kind of. She looks like she lives in the middle of the mountains, but this is like New York, I think. But she also has an imaginary friend, which is some creepy guy named, like, I remember my name. I, like, had to look up his name in the movie is Christopher. He's played by Kieran Culkin, and he, like, generally, like, looking at him, I was, like, uncomfortable. I was like, this guy is giving me immaculately bad vibes, which is, like, good because that's what they're going for. Because he's just, like, this edgy guy, but I'm also like, I do not feel comfortable with this man present in this room. But it turns out he's also not real. And then, to give a massive spoiler to the ending, but I'm going to get to the ending more later because I think it is just the worst, is the way they get rid of him. Instead of, like, well, I guess you spoil it. Captain Excellent leaves when Richard's like, okay, you got to go. Captain Excellent, like, flies off like it's a superhero. Christopher just hangs himself. Like, we just have a shot of him, like, hanging himself, and it's like, excuse me, like, what? Like, why did you think that was okay? Or, like, a way to do that? Like, I don't understand that decision, and I don't think it was ever a good decision to be like, what did that add? Aside from just, like, not, like, setting me off, but it was just like, you didn't need to do that. Like, that was way too far. And also, like, why did you, like, I just didn't understand why, and I was also like, that is a line that you've crossed that you did not need to cross. You can have him leave peacefully or in a way that is not just opening a door and then bam, like, hanging on a shot of him, like, having hung himself. He's not real, but it's also like, that doesn't really matter. In the reality is you just went full on, just like, yep, that happened. And I don't really like that. That's just me. I'm not really a fan of how that was used, and it was a series of bad decisions that are just a lot of made in the end, but we're gonna get there. Basically, before we get there, most of my notes here are just this. There are bad vibes here. There are bad vibes, which I think is pretty natural, given that like a 50-year-old is there's some tension there, some little romantic tension there with like a 16-year-old, and I don't like that ever. That's just kind of weird. And every time he's drunk, he like makes moves on her, not like sexual ones, but it's like the tension's heating up here, and I'm not comfortable. But alas, I guess I'm just gonna get into the ending. The ending is kind of tall, fills in all this. Basically, Abby, the character played by Emma Stone, and Richard. The last thing they do is that they like have a little baby kiss. But to me, I was pretty sure that was a kiss. Not like a very like long or passionate one, but it like was one. Which one? Not okay. Not the vibe. I don't care if that's consensual. That's still illegal. Just not no. Never. Don't do that. Bad idea. Just killed any investment. I literally turned on caps lock when I wrote that note because I was writing another note and I stopped that note, turned caps lock on, and just was like, I'm pissed. I don't know what to feel. I'm just very angry and I don't understand why you would do that. And I still am just very annoyed. But then Abby also like walks away and she's like, you get that vibe where it's like she really enjoyed that. She was like, yes, he finally kissed me. And I'm just like, just like my like skin's crawling, and I'm like, please, just stop. I beg of you, just stop. It's just like the entire time in their relationship, it's like once they're introduced, it's like yeah. Even the synopsis, you're like, yeah, it's gonna be this like old guy and her like this like teenager that they're gonna fall in love because they are the same. Because it turns out Abby she backed out of trying to do a double suicide pact with her sister at the age of 8. Which my immediate thought was, how are you still not seeing a therapist? Because I think there's an implication that she like went to an institution for a bit. But I'd be like, you should probably see a therapist for the rest of your life for that. Because like, that's insane. And also something very wrong, that the fact that you're 8 years old and you both were like, yeah, we're going to go swim out of the ocean and not come back. And then Abby comes back and she's all guilty. Hence why she's an imaginary friend. And it's a choice they made, but I'm also just like, wow, this is a strange situation. Because I also feel like the age doesn't really matter. Like, if it was like 8 years old, I don't really feel like that is relevant. But it definitely hits with the like, oh, that's pretty bad. But yeah, their relationship is just, they're two like, Abby and Richard, they're two like broken souls who need to find like healing in each other, and they do. But like, you can do that without them kissing, without them just having a lot of romantic tension that does not need to be there. Which leads me to my La La Land comparison, which is this doesn't work because the relationship is very age different. La La Land they're basically the same age, not 15 years old and like a 50, 60-year-old. Like, you don't need that. No. One of those works because they're two consenting adults. The other one doesn't because it's illegal. I feel like I'm really harping on this when that's really the end of the point, is that that's illegal. It's really not that deep. And it kind of is really my main problem with the movie, is just that that's the relationship. Because initially I'm just like bored. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be one of these movies. And then it just keeps like doubling down on their like relationship and the tension there, which just makes it worse and worse and worse. I'm not quite sure if it's worse than Irrational Man. I feel like that's a I'm not. That's gonna be a thought for when I sleep at night. But right now, I think they're about equally bad. Albeit maybe this is like no. I sorry, this is very sporadic, but I'm stuck on this and I'm trying to figure out which one is worse. Because they're very similar things, albeit one is like Irrational Man is like a red flag movie. This is just like a bad vibe. Well, this is illegal because it's like a murderer versus someone who needs it there. Oh, I think Irrational Man's worse because that guy is a murderer. He's a problem. He needs to be in an institution or just something to like seek professional help because he has murdered someone. Like he's an actual criminal. Richard is just mentally ill and needs a therapist or to just be diagnosed with whatever he has. So I guess that's my consensus. This is better because Richard is not a murderer, which is a very shallow distinction. But I think it's better to. I'm not gonna. This is a bad rabbit hole. I can't go down here. I can't go down here. This is not a good path. Because my thought was, oh well, it's not not good to love a murderer, but it's it's still illegal to like have a relationship with a 16-year-old and you're like 50. This is what we call a moral dilemma about two movies that are just both bad. But I think Richard is like a better protagonist, not by much, but he's at least more of like a normal one, and I like understand why he is the way he is. It's like yes, he is mentally ill, whereas Abe Lucas is just a psychopath or sociopath or just and a murderer at the end of the day. Like he is deranged, which yes also is mentally ill, but Richard has not acted on his mental illness. He is just having a hard time in life. Abe Lucas went, I'm going to murder someone and then murder another person if I can. So I feel like in the grand scheme of things, this movie is a little better than Irrational Man. Yeah, we're gonna stick with that. Good job, team. We found it. We figured it out. We did it. I finally figured an opinion. And when this comes out, probably long before this comes out on Letterboxd, I'll have ranked all of the movies in this series because I realized I hadn't done that, and I probably should just because I want to. So far, this is probably the second worst, maybe the third worst. I need to think of where Crazy Stupid Love fits because that isn't as like problematic. Not problematic. That's the wrong word. It's just not as. I don't like Robbie, but the line there is not as bad as Crimes. Robbie's just allowed to be a bad person and just be really gross and make people uncomfortable and gets away with it. But like it's not illegal, it's just really creepy. So I guess that's marginally better. I really did not expect to be having this just conversation with myself about every character that I don't really like and trying to like tier list this. What is going on here? I don't. I feel like I'm picking the least bad person out of like three awful people. What is going? I think I'm having just like some cognitive dissonance or something. My brain is just like I don't like. I think my brain just short circuited. I just don't even know what's going on. why, what happened? But the funny thing is, none of this involves Emma Stone, really. She's just kind of, well, it does, in that she's a relationship in both of them, the other side of the relationship. But, like, she's not the problem in this situation as much. And, yeah, she's not even the problem in Crazy Stupid Love. She's just entirely separate from my main problem with that movie. Man, I really hope we get some better movies soon that are just not, that I'm not picking the lesser of two evils. Because I was not super, I didn't, I looked at like the poster for this and I was like, this is fine. This looks okay. It had Ryan Reynolds in it and I was like, oh, that's fine. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but he's fine. I'm not really in it. But I don't really hate Ryan Reynolds. I need to be in a mood to enjoy a lot of the roles he does, and I wasn't sure I was in this one, but I wanted to get it done because it was one of the shorter ones. But I think I might curate my next pick to be something I might enjoy. I didn't really expect. Well, we had Cruella. I guess we're two in a row now. But I feel like I just watched Crazy Stupid Love again because I just talked about it, and it's all kind of flushing back to me. Like, this is just the floodgates have opened, and now every the one of the movies I don't like are coming back in. They're going hard, and I'm just like, uh oh. I didn't expect to be thinking on this right after I finished the movie. And yeah, I don't. Anyways, I don't want to. I don't. I want to be over with this. I don't like this anymore. I don't feel good here. It's not a safe space. This is not safe. Not safe. We're out of. Gotta get out of the bad movies. The thing I did like about this is Emma Stone. Emma Stone's always great. That's what we love. Claps for her. She's doing great. She's killing it. That took me way too long to think about. I was just. I don't think I like a lot of this movie. I'm just. But I also think as I kind of. When I wrote my last note was I sum up all the movies, like my experience watching it at the end, was that I was bored and then I was angry. And I think once I switched to angry, my notes changed from like neutral to just like, I'm pissed. What are you doing? Why is this? Like, I was upset that he was like riding his bike in the middle of the road, which like is a thing to be upset about because like just ride your bike inside the road like a normal person, or like someone who isn't going to be a nuisance on the highway or like whatever road you're driving on. But it's also like that doesn't matter. That is a petty note that does not is not relevant. Even like the emotional catharsis moment, I was like, yeah, cool, glad that you're doing a little better, but like you still need a therapist, pal. You should not have just been living with voices for 40 years and just been like, yeah, that's fine. But again, he has to want help, which I guess is kind of the main thing. But yeah, that's my feedback. Go to therapy, guy. Richard, Abby, you need to go to therapy. Therapy did exist in 2009. Go seek it. Because maybe your imaginary friends are gone, but that doesn't mean everything is solved, and therapy is just a good thing to go to in general. So, yeah, go to therapy if you need it, or even if you just think you remotely need it, or if you just want to and can afford to do it, because it's a good time, and I would recommend. That's all. Hopefully the next movie isn't bad. I don't really know which one is next, but I'm gonna soul read one that I think is good, and if it's bad, then I guess I read wrong, and can't win them all. So I tried my best, but hopefully I'll have nicer things to say for the next one. we're hopeful. I'll cross my fingers for that one. Anyway, that's all. The list of all the rankings this week will be on Letterboxd. You can follow me on Twitter at the Hagita. Letterboxd is also just Hagita. YouTube, Hagita. Twitch, Hagita. Most places that it's just Hagita. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your life.